Good evening and a very warm welcome. You're watching Times Now Live. I'm Pratibha Chandran and this is Times Now's rolling coverage of the escalating situation in West Asia. And a lot has changed in the last 24 hours. A dramatic escalation that threatens the world order and signals bigger escalations in the coming hours. The Middle East has entered a state of total regional war following the launch of Operation Epic Fury by the United States and Operation Roaring Lion by Israel, the joint operation that led to the killing of Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei. Now, reports say the US and Israel used intel from the 12-day war last year to gather intel on Khamenei's movements and finally struck when all top leaders were under one roof. The military situation on ground is escalating rapidly as Israel continues the second day of strikes that are aimed at establishing total air superiority. The IDF has reported destroying 40 senior Iranian commanders and multiple air defense batteries as well. And Iran has also widened the theater of war by targeting the US bases in Qatar, Bahrain and the UAE, with reports now also suggesting that USS Abraham Lincoln, the naval might of the United States, has also been struck by Iran. We get you all of these updates and more. First up, let's get you the top developments this hour. Now, remember, there are multiple locations that have been hit, including in the UAE as well. Let's get you the top 10 developments. Alireza Arafi takes over as Khamenei's successor. Iran has struck multiple bases, including Oman, which has come as a big surprise. The GCC countries have also been targeted by Iran, including Oman, that has also played a mediator. So red lines have been crossed by Iran, with the Iranian president saying that the enemy bases will be destroyed completely. In fact, Iran has also retaliated, including multiple locations in Israel. It has also gone past Israel's defense systems, the Iron Dome, and in Jerusalem, 8 Israelis have been killed. Iran has also deployed the Fateh 2 hypersonic missiles, reports suggesting that missiles have been deployed already, and the UAE has also been targeted. We're also playing out visuals from Dubai where multiple locations have come under a complete halt. There were strikes from Iran that hit multiple locations in Dubai. And UAE has said that over the last 24 hours, it has dealt with as many as 167 missiles and 541 drones coming in from Iran. Let's also talk about the stand that countries have taken as of now. Turkey and Azerbaijan have extended their support to Iran. And let's also talk about multiple Indians who have been evacuated. Many also remain stranded in multiple areas. Israel, of course, has said that the top leadership of Iran has been eliminated. They say not just the supreme leader, but there are as many as 40 Iranian military officials as well who have been killed in the joint strikes. Amid this, we're also seeing protests worldwide, multiple protests breaking out, including in Pakistan as well, where an unruly mob also stormed into the US consulate. These are the visuals that are playing out on the screens of protests that broke out. But what does this mean for the world? Now, is this going to continue for weeks together? And what do we make of Iran's response? Iran has now said that it is going to continue these strikes. So they're not going down without a fight. Is a succession plan in place? Are we actually going to see a regime change? What next? Will negotiations happen or not? To break it down for us for a better understanding, we have a panel of experts joining us this evening. We have Major General Sanjay Soy, defense expert, on the broadcast with us. We have Karis Wade, founder and executive director of Signal Group, on the broadcast with us. Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar, as well as Abhijit Iyer Mitra and Andrew Leung, the international and independent China strategist, as well on the broadcast with us, with a perspective on what can happen. And Major General Sanjay Soy, I want to begin with you. In the latest, Iran has also claimed that it has targeted the might of the United States naval fleet. The USS Abraham Lincoln, Iran claims, has been targeted. How do you see this play out?
In fact, I would say that this kind of claims and counterclaims are coming on, and we need to see the confirmation from the US whether this has been done or not. However, this kind of propaganda could be there, and I would say that the way Iran has struck back on different countries in and on US and UK bases, especially one base of UK in Middle East, it shows that in spite of death of Ayatollah Khamenei, they are proving a point that they are still there. They can still carry out attacks. And I would also like to highlight here that they have learned some lessons from the last time encounter, 12 days war, and they have improved upon it. And it shows that the way they are using the mix of drones and missiles, and the numbers they are using, and which is overwhelming their defense system. Though in spite of large number of these things being down, some of them are able to hit the targets, which is causing I think hurting the image of United States, because they had promised that all precautions have been taken. And second thing is, the next thing what I feel is that US and Israel are going to target the next line of leadership and their missile bases, missile factories, missile storage, drone factories, drone storage. These are the things that could be the next target, so that war waging capacity of Iran is reduced, the will to fight is reduced. I think that is how it is going to be in next 24 to 48 hours. Pratibha.
Okay, but Ms. Karis, how do you estimate the war-waging capabilities of Iran? Because they have said that they will continue to strike. Now, they claim that they've also hit the USS Abraham Lincoln. Now, there's no confirmation that has come in from United States. But how do you view Iran's response over the last 24 to 48 hours?
First of all, thank you very much for including me in this esteemed panel of experts. We have to remember that Iran has taken steps now that it has refrained from doing in the past that are inviting global opprobrium, attacking all the Arab states with the excuse that there are U.S. bases.
Yes.
Is a step that has turned many countries against Iran. In the past, we have seen many conflicts between Israel and Iran, and one where the U.S. Was directly involved, as we know, in June of 2025. And in general, the UN Security Council criticized Israel. In this case, there was a UN Security Council emergency meeting earlier today, and France, which is generally very critical of Israel, spent its entire time available for its monologue to criticize and reprimand Iran. Not a word about Israel, and certainly not about the United States. And the main reason is the attack on the Arab states in the region. These are states that have voiced support for Iran, that have publicly stated they are against any kind of kinetic event such as this, and yet Iran took the step of attacking as far as Cyprus. So I think we need to understand that Iran has invited upon itself very serious attacks coming in the coming days.
Okay.
At the same time, we all know that Iran has been building up its capabilities even after June 2025, reconstituting with support from a number of countries its missile capabilities, its ballistic missiles, and it is now showing what it can do. How long Iran can hold out with these attacks is anybody's guess. But in the meantime, they're able to wreak a great deal of havoc, including hitting Israel despite our very powerful wide range of defense capabilities.
Okay, they're wreaking havoc, yes, but is that a miscalculation? That's the question. Mr. Andrew, over the last few hours, we've seen Iran target multiple areas, including Qatar, the UAE, and also Oman, which has come as a big surprise to many. Is this a miscalculation? And with such a step, does Iran now find itself completely isolated? Mr. Andrew, can you hear me?
Oh, I think you're asking me.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, right. Well, people are trying to belittle Iran's national defense and their people rallying behind their leaders when the country is under attack in the first place. Let's not forget it was a decapitation campaign, taking out their leadership at one go, and also after decades of sanctions and so on. So although not the entirety of the Iranian people are in support of the Khamenei regime, but after this the Trump's decapitation, I think that there is a great deal of support amongst the Iranian people, even amongst those who originally adopted an ambivalent attitude, but because of nationalism, the national pride is being trampled. So that you're seeing that people are rallying, a large number of people are rallying in support of their country. Secondly, even though there is no comparison between the military might of the United States and that of Israel. Let's not forget that Iran is not a walkover. It's not Venezuela. It's a country of nearly 100 million people, something like 90 million population. In size is 4.6 times of Germany. So it's not a cakewalk. And because Iran already warned in advance that if it's attacked, then obviously it would target the American assets. I stress the word American assets because it's not targeting other countries, even though the countries in the region is targeting American assets. So to think that the rest of the Middle East and also some Western countries are support of the Israeli American decapitation campaign, which flies in the face of international law and also norms. If that kind of tactic, the rule of the jungle is used, then no country would be safe from American fury. And the whole world order would lie in tatters. So I think that there is a pushback. Now, as far as China is concerned, of course, the alliance or semi-alliance between Russia, China, and Iran was already highlighted decades ago by the doyen of American foreign policy, the late Brzezinski, in his seminal book called The Grand Chessboard. On page 55, it highlighted the semi-alliance between Iran, Russia, and China as the existential threat to American dominance. That was decades ago. And that alliance has always been a thorn on the side of American foreign policy. And so, again, because of this, a further destruction of the international order, both Russia and China have voiced serious concerns. But as far as China is concerned, don't forget that President Trump is scheduled to visit Beijing in a couple of weeks' time. There are two questions immediately come to mind. Firstly, would the war end over Iran that quickly? Would he be have spared the time to away from the Situation Room to visit Beijing? Secondly, for Beijing to host the United States at this stage, which has just play havoc with the international order, creates problems for Beijing.
So this casts clouds over it. You're saying that there are multiple questions that are facing United States on whether this will actually go forward or not. And you've raised some interesting points as well. We'll come back to that. Do stay with us. I want to also introduce on the broadcast with us Mr. Ashish Pandit, who is a businessman who is currently in Dubai. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. What is the situation there currently, Mr. Ashish? Over the last 24 hours, the situation has been extremely scary. I'm sure You can tell us more about what happened and what is the situation there currently.
Yes, the situation is gradually is going down. You can say that 24 hours before, everything looks that all right, though there is some incident happened and it was everybody was know about that situation, but gradually since yesterday 8 o'clock evening, then the situation is going down, and now it is almost, you can say that 20 or 25% of the people of Dubai usually seen in Sunday is moving for their different work, but without any work, nobody is going out.
Okay.
And very less cars are moving, and only the metro is going on, and the malls are, even during the Ramadan also, the malls are almost empty. So this is the situation, and people are scary. Though today is a holiday, Saturday and Sunday is a holiday in Dubai, so we can have to see that what happened on Monday. But tomorrow, I know that the schools and colleges, education institutions are all closed already, announced. And Abu Dhabi government has announced that those who are staying back could not travel for going out from Dubai or Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi government has advised the hoteliers to allow them to stay, and all the payment will be done by the Abu Dhabi government. That is one good thing happening, but it is not happening in Dubai.
Okay, so did you see thick plumes of smoke yesterday? I'm sure it was extremely scary because...
Yes, I have seen. I have seen is the smokes.
Okay.
It is in in 3-4 places, and it has been seen. I saw it's in 2 places.
Okay.
And one is the that's the place. Forgot the name. Anyway,
okay.
So 2 places I have seen the
targeted.
places.
Mr. Ashish, have you also been told anything about the Dubai airport, when the operations will begin, or as of now the questions still remain? And are you, is the government in constant touch with you, the others who are stranded in Dubai?
No. There is no touch, no constant touch. It is all are stranded. My flight was today at 1 o'clock, but yesterday midnight, the one intimation came to me that your flight has been cancelled, and you can go any day after when it's open. For 10 days now, it is extended to 20 days, or you can take the full refund. But the one thing is that they told me that you can change your ticket. So I requested to change my ticket on 4th for Calcutta, but it's never done. It's never happened. It's still pending. So this is going on.
Okay, all right. So let's hope the issues get resolved. But we're glad to know, Mr. Ashish, that you are safe. Stay safe. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast, getting us updates from Dubai. There are multiple people who are stranded there. As of now, the Dubai airport is completely shut. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. Let me take this across to Ambassador Sajjanhar on the broadcast with us. And Ambassador, there are, of course, a lot of concerns, especially in places like Dubai. And these are civilian areas as well that were targeted. And you had multiple locations that were completely stopped. Now, air traffic also being stopped. And this could not have been imagined. Travel hub of the world, Dubai also coming under attack, coming to a complete halt.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Pratibha, for having me on the show. You're very right. I don't think anyone could have expected this. It is in Dubai, it is in Abu Dhabi, it is in Doha, it is even Riyadh and Saudi Arabia have been hit. So you see, because earlier it was thought that it was Iran is going to hit out at the American assets that are in this region, and there might be some collateral damage to some of the places nearby. But what Iran has done, it is targeting, it is willfully targeting civilian areas as far as these countries in the Gulf are concerned. Even countries like Oman, for instance, who have been very friendly towards Iran, they have been mediating, they have been negotiating with the United States. So to me, it appears that it is an act of desperation as far as Iran is concerned. because they find, I think there is no coordinated action. I find it is the signal of panic as far as Iran is concerned, because their total top military leadership, whether it is the IRGC commander, intelligence commander, defense minister, chief of staff, in addition, of course, to Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, all of them have been taken out. So there is no chain of command. So it is the lower or middle level officers who are taking these decisions. Also, the whole issue of, you mentioned that the USS Abraham Lincoln has been targeted. I'm sure it could have been targeted, but this has been very provocative in my view, as far as the Americans are concerned. And, the reaction, the retaliation will be much severe. The problem is, as far as hitting these Gulf countries, is that, in my view, Iran is shooting itself in the foot. I think it is committing a huge blunder, because these were the countries that had told the United States that you shouldn't be hitting out at Iran, because then they will be firing on the American assets, and that will create problems for us. Now, these are the countries which were behaving in a friendly manner towards Iran. But Iran, by its actions, has really, as far as all these countries are also concerned, it has again created fissures, fractures between them. You know that Saudi Arabia, the Foreign Office, summoned the ambassador of Iran today and saying that why is our fraternal countries in the region also being targeted? So I don't think it is doing itself any favor by doing this. In fact, it is isolating itself even more. And the GCC foreign ministers are meeting today. So I'm sure there is going to be a huge, big resolution against Iran, which otherwise might not have been the case if Iran had conducted itself more strategically as far as its neighboring countries are concerned.
Okay, all right. There are multiple reports that are coming in as well. On one report suggesting that during the 12-day war last year, that is when intel had been picked up by the United States and Israel on the movement of Khamenei, after which now, as the negotiations were taking place in Geneva, as the top leaders were under one roof, the strikes were carried out. But there are also reports that suggest that there was a nudge that also came in from Saudi Arabia that pushed the United States to actually give this intel to carry out these strikes. But, there has been a mention of violation of international law as well by China as well. And Abhijit Iyer Mitra, in our previous panel as well, we had an Israeli guest who said that the response of Iran suggests that they are on a suicide mission. Yes, there has been an attack, but Iran's response is suggesting suicide in front of the entire world. Do you agree with that?
Look, they've been on a suicide mission for a very, very long time. This isn't the beginning of their suicide mission. They've been playing with fire, with their nuclear program, with, supporting terrorists like the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, etc., etc. Maybe the only stabilizing action they did ever was to, keep Assad propped up, because we don't like vacuums and things like that. Other than that, they've literally been asking for this. And I think, even Israel would have been very status quo-ish had it not been for the 7th of October attack, which is when Israel decided, enough is enough. And look what happened. This is, let's be clear, this is a fallout of what happened on the 7th of October, where, Iran decided to double down on its chips, and its entire ring of fire around Israel collapsed. Historically, if you look at it, this is what Iran does. They always overplay their cards, and it always boomerangs back on them more than they expect it to. Now, if you look at all their targeting today and yesterday, it has been against civilian targets.
Yes.
Now, you can make the case, that every country housed an American base. But remember, they are not just hitting those bases. They are hitting 5-star hotels. Oman, of all places, they go and hit, they don't hit the actual American British refueling base there. What they end up hitting is the oil tanks very, very far away from any American ship. They are, it is one thing, actively asking people, there's no translation of the Hindi term "Aa bail mujhe hi maar." Basically, a bull dancer going in front of a bull with a red cloth and saying, "Come, please, charge at me, toro, toro, toro," kind of thing. That's what they're doing. I suspect it is because there has been a break in the chain of command when Khamenei got killed and with the IRGC commanders below. But I think this course of action had been determined quite some time. That said, let us be very clear, this course of action only plays into Israel and America's hands because you are expending valuable ammunition on useless targets, civilian targets that have no impact on the war, when you probably should have been saving them up. Hitler made the same mistake in the Second World War. Instead of wiping out the RAF, which he could have, he decided to target London and, do massive civilian bombing. Best of luck to him.
Okay, all right. So the repercussions are not going to be in Iran's favor. That's what you're telling us. Do stay with us. We're breaking updates now coming in. And this is the first official confirmation coming in of the casualties on the U.S. side. According to the United States Central Command, 3 U.S. service members have been killed in action and 5 have been seriously wounded as part of Operation Epic Fury. So several others have also sustained minor shrapnel injuries and concussions and are in the process of being returned to duty. Major combat operations are continuing, and this is the U.S. statement saying our response effort is ongoing. The situation is fluid. So out of respect for the families, we will withhold information, including the identities of our fallen warriors, until 24 hours after next of kin have been notified. This is the official statement coming in from the United States. This is the first confirmation from the U.S. on the casualties on the U.S. side. The information coming in is that 3 U.S. service members have been killed in action, and there are 5 others who have been seriously wounded as part of Operation Epic Fury. Several others also sustaining minor injuries and concussions. This is the official statement that has come in from the United States on the casualties and injuries on the U.S. side. So there's no information yet that has been given by the United States on where these casualties are from. Currently, no information coming in on that. Major General Sanjay Soy, the statement coming in from the United States on the soldiers who have been killed in action and also injuries, but we don't have any more information coming in from the United States on where and how. They say that as of now, this is the only information that they can confirm.
Yeah, Pratibha, in fact, I would say that in a couple of places they were able to hit US bases like in Bahrain and in Qatar. So it could be the casualties could have been there, because when this kind of fight is going on, when this kind of exchange of missile fire and drone fire is going on, some casualties are expected, and that has to be accepted because, I mean, if you're fighting, be ready to accept some casualties. There is no doubt about it, and that is part of the duty, part of the armed forces duty. Now, next is the way things are happening, like other 2 speakers have also brought out. I also endorse the same thing, that probably Iran is wasting ammunition, they are firing in desperation, and it is not leading to any ultimate outcome. Maybe my thought is that by attacking the other Gulf countries, they are forcing them to force US and approach US to go for talks, go for discussions. Like without what Iran's point of view, I'm saying if we think from their point of view, they would be thinking, okay, these people will just say don't attack, but they have no power to stop US to do anything. They have no power to save us or to bring peace. However, when they feel the pinch, when they suffer casualties, when they have like in UAE and all, there's huge investment of US. UAE airport is, Dubai airport is one of the busiest airport, handling about 1,000 flights and about 26,000 passengers every day. And those things are shut, all air traffic is shut. It pinches them, and it also dents the image of US. That is what probably their aim is ultimately. However, what US and Israel are doing, they are going with pinpoint attacks, carrying out attacks based on firm intelligence, so that probably ultimately what I'm looking at second rung of leadership and missile and drone bases, so that they are able to finish and weaken the will to fight and their capacity to fight for a long time, Pratibha.
Okay, all right. Ms. Calispet, I want to ask you, where you see things proceeding from here. And many have been saying, several of our experts also going on to say that Iran, as of now, doesn't look like it has a plan. It is reacting in panic, and it could last for maybe a few days, a few weeks, after which Iran has no plan in place. Is that how you view it as well, on what could happen next in Iran?
I have no insights into Iran's plans. However, I do know that this is the first time, and really no one has acknowledged the fact that the United States and Israel are working side by side. Because the U.S. entered the June 25th, the 2025 war and brought in the bunker-busting bombs at the very end in order to denigrate the nuclear program, does not mean this is an absolute, what we're seeing now is an absolute expected outcome. This is extremely unusual. Never before has the United States put offensive military capability on Israeli soil. They did not do it because of concern of Arab displeasure over doing it. Things have changed dramatically. The Abraham Accords and the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, and the Iran attacks, repeated attacks, have all led to a real transformation in the mind of the Arab states. We know that MBS, the titular head of Saudi Arabia, lobbied Trump to attack, that none of these countries were comfortable with Iran having nuclear capability. Even China is against Iran having nuclear military capability. So the fact that Israel and the United States have been hand in hand carrying out this war is very unusual and very powerful. Israel has taken hard hits. 4 people were killed by some missiles that got through, as was mentioned by one of my colleagues here, targeting civilian populations all across the region. However, we have not seen the serious American firepower. And unlike Iran, the U.S. does seem to have a plan. So it is tragic that U.S. soldiers were lost and that Israeli civilians were lost. But going forward, I think we can expect a controlled escalation that will hopefully bring an end to this war and to the suffering of the Iranian people and the suffering of the entire region and globally. We have to remember, when this war started, immediately after it started, our security services put out a warning to all Israelis around the world not to convey that they are from Israel, because Iran would be targeting Israelis everywhere in the world, me being one of them, because I am now in Manila. So I think we need to understand that this is an unhappy development that is caused, as my colleague said earlier, by a regime that has been insistent for 50 years. Somebody this evening mentioned rules-based order. Iran has not followed a rules-based order since 1979. And for 50 years, the world, the US, Israel, Europe, have tried to rein in these threats of death to the United States, death to Israel, and trouble for many other countries. However, everybody failed. And in the face of endless aggression by one state, I do not think we can call it an act against the rules-based order to try to neutralize that threat.
Okay, all right. I request you to stay with us. We have more breaking updates now coming in. Again, an official word coming in from the Israeli Defense Forces. they have announced that the Israeli Air Force is carrying out a new wave of airstrikes in Tehran. So there's clear escalation now. This is a new wave of attacks that are coming in from Israel. The IDF has announced that the Israeli Air Force is carrying out a new wave of airstrikes in Tehran. Confirmation coming in from Israel. And Mr. Andrew, so this is a clear indication that things are only escalating from here. Israel has now confirmed that there is a new wave of airstrikes that has been launched on Tehran. Okay, can I request Abhijit Air Mitra to take that? Clear escalation with Israel now launching a new wave of airstrikes in Tehran, and it's clear that it's only going to continue. Iran has also made it clear that we will also strike back.
Look, I don't think it's an escalation. It's part of ongoing operations. Netanyahu had said that this is going to require patience. He was indicating at a fairly long campaign. Now, we don't know how long that means, but it's definitely not short. And if you heard what the Israelis were saying yesterday, it was they're going to take out its military capabilities. They're going to see to it never becomes nuclear. And they are going to eliminate the leadership, quote unquote, past, present, and future. I do not see this ending till a huge section of, at least down to the brigadier level of the military, is taken down. Most probably even the 88-member Assembly of Experts, because they are the ones who appoint the new supreme leader. And that is going to be a process where, I'm sure Israel will not want to see, of a permanent and powerful supreme leader being appointed. And they're not going to stop till the ballistic missiles either run out or the factories are destroyed. I don't see how this campaign ends quickly. If anything, we need to remember the way these campaigns work is day 1, day 2, day 3 are the build-up, and it then takes on a crescendo, usually on day 4 and things like that, really depending on how long it takes them to suppress enemy anti-aircraft fire. Once that is done, that is when the true ground, the air-to-ground operations, air-to-ground bombing begins.
But what is the end game going to be? Is it going to be actually regime change, or to get, weaken Iran's position in the negotiating table? Because you mentioned that this is going to go on for several days, and Israel or even the United States will not actually want to be a part of any transfer of power. The situation in Iran is completely different from a few of the countries that US has been involved in previously.
So look, Iran really didn't have much negotiating leverage at all. In fact, they apparently gave in on most of the demands. The issue has been every time Iran has given in on demands, they keep cheating. There has never been a document they've signed which they haven't cheated on. So, even that document, when it gets signed, 2 years down the line, 2-3 years down the line, if they perceive weakness on part of the Americans or a lack of willingness on part of anyone, they'll go ahead and do what they've always done. They'll build new hidden facilities, so on and so forth. I think it's more a case of exasperation with a pattern of repeated cheating and lying by the Iranians that came home to roost. Regarding where this, goes from here on, I personally don't see regime change happening. We've never had regime change by air operations alone. There is the case of operations against Serbia on Kosovo, but that just made Serbia reverse course. There is sometimes it is claimed that Libya was regime change by air action alone. Not true. It was NATO air action accompanied by Libyan rebels on the ground. Essentially a civil war between Tripoli and Benghazi, which have always been two different regions, Libya and Cyrenaica, Libya and Tripolitana, effectively. And that is something which we are going to find here is very tough. We need to remember Iran is half the size of India geographically. This is not an easy country. It is mostly mountainous. We seem to think Iran as being desert. It is not.
Yes.
I don't, I'm not seeing how regime change happens. I sometimes worry because one of the things we see about decapitation is new leadership when it comes up are young, inexperienced, much more radical, much more fanatical. What prevents them from going in for a dirty bomb? I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Okay. And Mr. Andrew, do you think that we can expect any support at all from Russia or China at this point? Is that a possibility at all that Iran will be looking at?
Well, I think that this escalation and worsening of the crisis is extremely worrying the world over, not least to countries like Russia and China. After all, as you pointed out, neither Russia nor China wants a nuclear-armed Iran because it's going to spark off nuclearization in other countries, for example, in the Korean Peninsula, even Japan, and so on. So I think that no country is for the nuclearization of Iran. However, the fact that Iran is nearly producing a nuclear weapon smacks of the kind of ploy employed by the United States to start the Iraq war on the pretext of suspected weapons of mass destruction. So I think that either way, this worsening is worrying in the sense that there are variable American military assets in the region. And of course, if the Iran should in possession of hypersonic weapons and kind of missiles which can have the capability to sink or severely damage one of these assets, then there'll be a total war, possibly dragging in other countries. I mean, God forbid if both Russia or China drag into the quagmire, then we're talking about a world war. I think that this is very dangerous. No country wants it. I don't think the United States wants it. I don't think Russia wants it. China definitely doesn't want it. So I think that the main thing is to de-escalate and to come back to the original problem which sparked it off. It's Iran's possession of nuclear weapons. And I think that through pressure, non-military pressure, but also all countries can talk about it and negotiate a kind of iron cast framework to make sure that Iran doesn't possess weapons. But this kind of military action escalating all over does not help anyone, any country.
Yes, in fact, it has stunned the entire world, violation of international laws and no attempt whatsoever that has been made by the United States for any international support. It sets the wrong precedent and raises several questions. No doubt it has stunned the entire world as we watch in horror what is happening. The next few hours and perhaps even days are going to be extremely crucial. I'm thanking our guests for joining us this evening for a better understanding of the situation and the things as they unfold. We're slipping into a very short break here. We'll be right back.